This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. I lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome to the Special Chronicles Podcast. My name is Daniel Smrokowski. I'm the founder and host of Special Chronicles, our website, specialchronicles.com. We to follow Special Chronicles on socials and wherever you get your podcasts. This week on the Special Chronicles Podcast, Spread the Word Day of Activation was this past week on March 5th. We think the world would be better if everyone were included. Around the world, exclusion and discrimination continue to divide people with and without intellectual and developmental disabilities. We are changing that with grassroots action for inclusion. This year, you can engage and activate in multiple ways by choosing your focus, the derogatory language, bullying, or inclusive action. To help you understand why the Spread the Word campaign is important, we are rebroadcasting a few episodes this month that will highlight the importance of why you should join us in the Spread the Word campaign. Visit SpreadTheWord.Global to access resources, sign the pledge, and grab your official gear. Together, let's create a more inclusive world. This week, our focus is to stand up to bullying, and we bring you a rebroadcast conversation with Laura Hertzog on an episode that was titled "Short Bus is the Greatest Blessing," where we'll be talking in particular about an article that she wrote about the short bus. The link to that article will be in the show notes in the description below, wherever you are listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles podcast. The following episode has been previously broadcasted. Joining us today on the Special Chronicles podcast is Laura Hertzog. She wrote an article about her brother who was diagnosed with Down syndrome on the Mighty called "The Short Bus Stops at My House." And Laura, I first heard about your story of your brother and the short bus a few years ago on the Special Olympics Facebook page or the Spread the Word in the Word page. And then fast forward to just last year, I read the story that you wrote on the Mighty. Let's first welcome to Special Chronicles, Laura.
Thank you.
So let's begin by having you introduce yourself to our listeners.
I'm Laura Hertzog. I am a sophomore at St. Norbert College in De Pere, Wisconsin, right outside Green Bay. I'm studying political science. And I am an older sister to a younger brother with Down syndrome and has greatly shaped not only my life, but the other members of my family life as well.
Cool. And speaking your perspective as a sibling, today, the day that we're taping this on Friday, April 10th, 2015, is National Sibling Day. So
yes,
it's great, a great day to tape your story today. Let's in preparing for our show, and like you just said, you're a political science major. What we'll get to later on is about this year is the 25th anniversary of the ADA, which is the American with Disabilities Act.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting. Plus, we're working on some things at Special Chronicles, a column, and some other radio media pictures related to this year. But let's take our listeners back to some of the challenges that your brother's name, and I think in the story I read that your brother's name is David.
Yes.
And so talk to us about some of the challenges, and he's younger than you?
Yeah, so he is 17 months younger than me. He so he will be graduating in May.
Neat. From high school?
Yes, from high school.
Neat. So we had a guest on the show end of March. His name's David Winneely, and I wrote a column about him in the Bugle newspapers. And he's a freshman in high school, so it's kind of around the same age as your brother David.
Great.
And he also has Down syndrome. Why did you decide to write the story about the short bus that stops at your house?
Well, I wrote it when I was a freshman in college. I grew up in a really small town in Minnesota, so everyone knew my brother and everyone knew my family. However, when I went to college, no one knew that I have a younger brother with Down syndrome, and kind of the effects that has on your life. I think siblings and parents can relate that having a member of your family with a disability is really alters kind of the way that you live your life and the way that your family is structured in a very positive way. Yes, there are some hardships that come along with it, but I kind of wanted to highlight some of the great things that come along with having a brother with Down syndrome and how it's really greatly impacted my entire life.
Awesome. And speaking of, similar to your brother riding the short bus, when I was younger, I also rode the short bus to school. But why do you think kids make fun of the short bus because it's all, no matter what town someone lives in, it's you see them all over across the country and probably even across the globe. So why do you think kids make fun?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a stigma attached to riding the short bus, a very negative one as well. I think people just are uncomfortable. They don't know how to approach people with disabilities. They think that they're so out there, and in high school is a really awkward time to begin with. And finding just a little differences in people is something that kids play on, and that they look at them very differently and as inferior. And so in my essay, I wanted to kind of portray that it is okay to have the short bus stop at your house, and it is okay to ride the short bus. It does not mean that you can't contribute to society. It just simply is your mode of transportation, and it's really disheartening that it has a stigma that it does, but I hope that in years to come we get rid of the stigma, and it's just another form of transportation that gets children to school.
Awesome. I definitely agree with you, and that kind of in ending the stigma around disability, which has a negative connotation to it. One of the things that we're trying to champion, it goes along with one of my friends, Tim Shivo, who's the chairman of Special Olympics, talks about, and even in his book, he talks about the term abilities, and that's one thing that at Special Chronicles we're trying to champion a new campaign to change the term disability to abilities. What's some of your thoughts about that term?
I think that's great. I know that a lot of times people say disabled people, which drives me nuts. Or a Down syndrome child. No, they are a child with Down syndrome. They just happen to have Down syndrome. It does not define them. Children with disabilities, they are still a child first. Having a disability is just an extra part of them. It does not define them in any way. It just simply is part of their being, but it does not mean that it makes them less. Yeah, the term disability already has a negative connotation because it's saying that they are disabled in some way, which is untrue.
Yeah, definitely. And that goes along what you said about people force language. I wrote an article on the Special Olympics blog last year, and then also kind of a abbreviated version in the Bugle newspapers the end of last year about the importance of people force language. So that it as someone with special needs, it bugs me in the media when people don't use people force language, and so I'm grateful that my editor at the Bugle, that they write the headlines in people force language. So
Yes.
and that's a really important step in getting rid of the stigma around disability. So let's talk a little bit about, it may be this next question, it may be an obvious one, but talk a little bit about your inspiration.
My inspiration for writing the article, or just
both for writing the article and then also in life.
Yeah. So my brother. But also, I came into college a business major. I don't even know why. I don't want to do anything with business. But, as I started realizing, as I started to grow within college, I realized, my passion truly is for improving people's lives who do have disabilities. And my mom and I always joke, my mom runs the National Bullying Prevention Center through the Pacer Center in Minneapolis. And we always say we can't get away from advocating for the rights of children with disabilities. We try really hard, but in the end, that is our passion, and definitely sprout from living almost my entire life with a brother with Down syndrome. But also just from that, my brother was involved in Special Olympics, so you just get to meet so many kind souls, and you just want what's really best for them, and you can see that society is not moving in that direction, and you kind of feel almost obligated to do something about it, and not only obligated, but you want to do something to improve their lives.
Yeah, absolutely neat. Let's now kind of switch gears to another topic that you talked about in the story that you wrote. Again, we're speaking with Laura, who wrote an article about her brother, the mighty called "The Short Bus Stops at Her House," and you had talked about your brother's experience in special education and with standardized tests, and how it's similar. That story is similar to an experience that I had in high school, taking the ACT and getting the accommodations, and really the aide that was in the room with me didn't give me the right amount of time that I was supposed to, as the ADA supposed. So that was frustrating, but kind of share with our listeners. I'm sure a lot of our listeners will go and read your story, but kind of share about that story.
Yeah, so I came back, I think it was Thanksgiving break of my freshman year, and so my brother was a junior in high school, and in Minnesota we take tons of standardized tests that the state requires, not to get even into college, just to basically, and my mom was just sharing with me that my brother was in the bottom 2 percentile of the entire state for high schoolers, and that really got to me, because standardized tests, in my opinion, are just really difficult. I don't like standardized tests. I don't think anyone does. And it didn't correctly measure his ability. My brother may struggle to write his first name, but he can offer so many other great things that those tests don't pick up. And that was really frustrating to me, because he's worked so hard, and not only has he worked hard, but all of his teachers have worked really hard, and his paras and his classmates, and those tests did not show that, and that was really frustrating to me.
Yeah, neat. Speaking about the frustration with the standardized tests, those an artist, I taped a bonus podcast last year on Backstage with Tom Chapin. I don't know if you know, he's won a couple of Grammy Awards, and he has both kind of for children and families and adults. So he has kind of two different musical careers. But he wrote a song called "Not on the Test," about focusing on the whites and kind of going along with what you had just said. So I don't know. Have you heard of that artist? Or?
No, I have not heard of that artist.
If you go on to SpecialChronicles.com and do a search for Tom Chapin, you should be able to pull that up. But I'm sure that your brother David will enjoy his music. But that's I believe I want to say a 10-minute interview backstage with him.
Great.
And so I'm definitely recommend his music, and we have permission to play a lot of his music on the show. But one of the other things that you talked about in the story is about your brother's innocence, and can you share with us what the beautiful part of your brother's innocence is?
Yeah. So what I was talking about there was, so my brother is 18 and he has a cognitive level of a 4-year-old. He doesn't have a lot of complex thinking going on, and that's okay. But for the rest of us, we are so caught up in all these little things. Like I said in my article, I was caught up on how I'm going to keep up on social media and how I'm going to, finish my homework, which is really important things. But for my brother, those worries are just, they're not there. They're not even relevant to him. He has no idea that they really even exist. And there's something really beautiful about that, in that he simply is just enjoying life. He's not caught up in, kind of what other teenagers are caught up in. And there's something really great about that, because he just simply can enjoy life. He watches the news because that's what he wants to watch. Yeah. He watches movies because that's what he wants to do. And, he's not worried about what other people around him are doing. He's simply he's enjoying his life. And I think that's so great. And I think that we all can learn from that.
Awesome. I definitely agree with that. And the next you talked about in the story, once again, was speaking with Laura, who wrote an article on the Mighty about her brother who has Down syndrome, and is titled "The Short Bus Stops at Her House." And again, Laura also shared this story. It was posted a few years before the Mighty posted it. It was posted on the Special Olympics Facebook page. You talked about about human dignity, and you shared the story of how your mom upholds human dignity. Can you explain to us about some of the reasons, or maybe some anecdotes of how your mother is upholding human dignity?
Yeah. So like I said, my mom and I always joke about how we can't get away from advocating for the rights of children with disabilities. My mom has taken that to a whole new level. She works in Bloomington, Minnesota, which advocates it actually educates parents on their rights for when they have children with disabilities. So say a child's born with autism, they educate parents on what their rights are, insurance-wise, education, kind of what benefits they get. And when my brother was starting school, when he was entering kindergarten, my mom, of course, was really worried that he would be extremely bullied. Of course, every parent has tons of concerns when their child enters kindergarten, but for my brother was nonverbal. He could barely walk. He couldn't eat. So my mom was very nervous. So she started the National Bullying Prevention Center, which is a project under Pacer Center. So she's been doing that now for almost 15 years. So that's kind of where she works. And, she kind of took it to the next level. She wanted to really make sure that my brother was protected, but that also all children, whether they have a disability or not, are treated equal.
Neat. Definitely, if the next time that I'm up in Minnesota, we'll definitely have to try to meet up or have a live podcast, and I think it'll be neat to talk to your mom and your brother on the show as well. Now, one of the focuses that we have here at Special Chronicles and even Special Olympics and a lot within our special needs community is focusing on our abilities and gifts. Can you share with us some of the gifts or abilities that your brother has?
Yeah. So my brother is an incredible young man. And he loves to run, which is really great. He has had 5 open heart surgeries, has a pacemaker, had a trach. So the fact that he can even run is pretty astounding, and he loves it. He also loves, he just loves watching movies, and he always has a smile on your face. If you make David sad, you really have done something, because he does not get sad very often. He loves to go out and play in our backyard, and he loves to spend time with his family. And he just is an incredible little boy who lives a very, very simple life, which is really beautiful.
Neat. So as we mentioned at the top of the show, sorry, my audio recorder keeps falling down. As we mentioned at the top of the show, that this year, 2015, is the 25th anniversary of the ADA. And for those of our listeners who may not be familiar, it's the American with Disabilities Act. It helps to advocate for our rights. And since you're a political science major, and I'm actually going to this entire year is the 25th anniversary of the ADA, but July, end of July is when President Bush had signed the ADA. So the August column, first week of August, is when I'm planning on writing a column about the ADA. And so, can you share, kind of from your perspective in relating with your brother David, some of your thoughts about this year's 25th anniversary of the ADA?
Yeah. So the ADA definitely has advanced the rights for all people with disabilities. However, we still have a very long way to go. But like I said, you have to start somewhere. One thing, so my brother turned 18 this year, and actually my parents had to go and adopt my brother. That was a law under Minnesota. So simple things like that still, are really conflicting with their rights and, human dignity. So the ADA really did advance. It makes accommodations for people, which is really important. Yeah. But we still do have a long way to go.
Neat. So you may mention that your brother was adopted. Can you share with the listeners some of that? I mean, briefly, some of that story, or kind of.
Yeah. So he was adopted because when you turn 18. I'm not sure if this is a federal law or a state law. So he's my parents' biological child, but when he was 18, he can't live on his own, obviously, and so my parents had to reclaim guardianship over him. So we had to go to court and everything for this. It was just kind of ridiculous.
It seems like it would be.
So my brother is, my biological brother, but yet my parents had to go to court and to adopt him. Yeah. And they do this so that, there are benefits, because if a parent is unable to continue being a parent to a child with disabilities, they go either into a group home, which can be very beneficial for children with adults at that point with special needs. But it seems a little comical. However, there are benefits to it.
Yeah, good. Yeah. And one thought, I think we kind of a lot of times interchangeably use the term special needs and disabilities, and it goes back to when when we were talking about that, Tom, and I think by using I prefer to like if you go on Special Chronicles, you see a lot of times that we use the term special needs or now disabilities, and I think it ties that back to the getting rid of this the misconception or stigma around disability. And I agree with you that we still have a long ways to go. How can our listeners connect with you online or read more, as well as read more about your story, such as social media, or if you have a blog, or any of those types of links?
Yeah, I have a blog, Laura Hertzog. I think it's Laura Hertzog, WordPress.com. Also, you can check out my article on the Mighty. And that's really all I have. No, this essay I literally wrote it one night. I sent it to my mom, and my mom sent it to Spread the Word to End the Word. And the next day it was on their Facebook page. It was not something I really planned on doing. Yeah. I just wrote it, must have not had homework that I don't know. But the next day it appeared on Facebook and had like 50,000 likes within like 12 hours. And news to me. Yeah. So, not something I definitely planned, but I'm thrilled that people read it, and I had so much positive feedback. And it just gives me hope that, we are progressively moving forward in this issue. Yeah.
Awesome. And I'll definitely include links to your blog as well as to your article on the Mighty in our show notes on specialchronicles.com for this episode. And we just a friend of mine who has autism, her mom just posted on her Facebook page that about the short bus, and she put a link to the Facebook page for the Spread the Word to End the Word campaign, and so I think just within this past week she had posted that. So it's neat, kind of how I think kind of like all of these stories with what she posted, and now with getting a chance to talk with you, it's good that we have a community to really help.
Yeah, the disability community is strong, and it's alive, and it's well. So we can only go up from here.
Yeah, awesome. And is there any final thoughts about our overall time together today that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I would just say that every little thing can make a difference. Calling someone out on using the R word can make a difference. Correcting someone using people first language can make a difference. You're not going to offend them. It's a proper way to address someone. Yeah. And they deserve that. People with disabilities deserve to be addressed properly. So anything that you can do, it really does pay off in the end. Yeah, awesome.
Definitely agree. And you kind of as a closing thought, the last line of your article that you wrote is titled, "And the short bus stopped at my house was the greatest blessing." I think that's a great quote to a great quote to end the story that you wrote and to end our time together today. So any thoughts on that last line that you wrote?
Yeah, I ended with that because, like I said, there's such a stigma around the short bus stopping at my house. Everyone I went to high school with knew that there was a short bus that stopped at my house, and the stigma that came around that. And I just wanted to make sure that they knew that I never saw that as a bad thing. In fact, like I said, it was the greatest blessing I ever had. So. Yeah.
Awesome. So once again today we're speaking with Laura, who wrote an article on the Mighty about her brother David, who has Down syndrome, called "The Short Bus Stops at My House." Thank you again, Laura, for taking the time to come on.
Thank you.
And I hope that if we can hopefully bring the show up to Minnesota, that we can meet in post.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I kind of didn't plan that appropriately. I was supposed to kind of slowly fade that in. Well, once again, thank you, Laura, for taking the time to come on the Special Chronicles podcast. That's what it's called, train wreck of a show. But yeah, thanks again, Laura, for taking the time to come on once again. And I hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit more about that. I'd like to just take a quick break, just once again to mention our sponsors. This episode of support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. Please join our supporters with a monthly or one-time donation so we can operate our studio and continue our mission, giving respect and voice to people with disabilities. Visit specialchronicles.com/give. That's specialchronicles.com/give to donate now. And if you want to access our bonus content, you can join now at specialchronicles.com/plus. That's specialchronicles.com/plus. Support for Special Chronicles comes from the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program, the country's first energy and solar efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd. And support for Special Chronicles comes from United Airlines Bridge Disability Business Resource Group, connecting people of all abilities. Learn more on United's commitment to disability inclusion for employment and travel at specialchronicles.com/United. That's specialchronicles.com/United. And a few plugs as we wrap up this episode. I'm going to let you know that if you would like to shop our merchandise store, our Disabled Voices Matter merch, we have t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs. You can shop our store and know that 60% of the profits support us. Visit specialchronicles.com/shop. That's specialchronicles.com/shop. To get our Disabled Voices Matter merch. And tap that follow button because we have new episodes every week. Next week, we will be continuing this Spread the Word rebroadcast series as we sit down with Dr. Jackie Jodo, the Chief Youth and Education Officer at Special Olympics, to talk all about inclusive mindsets and how you can another focus for this year's Spread the Word campaign is inclusive action, and how you can have inclusive mindsets and really spreading inclusive action in your communities, in your schools, in your workplaces. And so that conversation you do not want to miss next week. You can hear this and more episodes related to the Spread the Word campaign at specialchronicles.com/spreadtheword. That's specialchronicles.com/spreadtheword. All those links will be in the show notes in the description below wherever you're listening to this podcast. So go and check those out and tap that follow button and all of that. We'll be back next week right here, same time, same place on the Special Chronicles podcast on specialchronicles.com. So until then, have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week right here on specialchronicles.com. Until then, remember to choose to include. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles podcast. Our podcast was produced by Daniel Smrokowski on the Special Chronicles Network. Follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our website, specialchronicles.com, where you can stream our archives of over 500 episodes for free. Also, there's a list of our favorites, original series, award-winning columns, and blogs. And sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, specialchronicles.com. Special Chronicles is hosted by Podbean Podcast Hosting. Our live streams are powered by StreamYard. Thanks, as always, to our business manager, Adam Smrokowski, who always encourages us to never give up. I'm Daniel Smrokowski, back next week with more stories.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.